The galactic creature exchange sat in the middle of Station Orima like a beating heart. It was the largest pet market in the known universe. Every day, thousands of aliens walked through its halls. They came to buy and sell creatures from hundreds of different worlds. There were glowing jellyfish that could sing songs only special eyes could see. There were six-legged cats that could send feelings into your mind. There were snakes with scales that changed color to tell you if rain was coming. Rich collectors paid millions for rare beasts. Scientists bought strange animals to study. Families looked for friendly pets to take home. But in the far corner of Hall 7, past the popular shops and the bright lights, there was a small cage sitting alone. A sign hung on its bars. The sign said, "Clearance Final Price," in faded letters. Inside the cage sat a creature that nobody wanted. He was a dwarf dragon. His body was only as big as a large dog. Long ago, his scales might have been beautiful. They might have shined like gold or bronze in the light. But now they were dull and gray. One of his two horns was broken at the tip. His wings were small and weak. They folded against his back like they had given up trying to fly. His eyes were cloudy with age, and he stared at the floor of his cage without seeing anything at all. Around his neck hung an old metal collar. A small tag dangled from it. The tag was so scratched and dirty that no one could read what it said anymore. For 11 station cycles, this old dragon had been for sale. Many aliens had walked past his cage. The Villani merchants, with their 4 eyes and long fingers, had looked at him and shaken their heads. "He is ugly," they said. "No one wants an ugly pet." The cloth collectors who loved to own rare beasts had examined him and walked away. "He is too old," they said. Old creatures cannot learn to love new masters. The Solari researchers, who studied strange life forms, had scanned him with their machines. "He is nothing special," they said. "His genes are boring. There is nothing to learn from him." And so the old dragon sat, day after day, cycle after cycle. He ate the cheap food the merchants threw into his cage. He drank the stale water in his bowl. He slept most of the time because there was nothing else to do. Sometimes he opened his cloudy eyes and looked at the aliens walking past. But they never looked back. To them, he was invisible. He was worthless. He was already forgotten. Kang Taiho did not plan to visit Hall 7 that day. He was a cargo hauler from Earth, 34 years old, with rough hands and a tired face. His job was simple. He flew his ship from station to station, carrying boxes and crates for other people. It was not exciting work. It did not pay very well. But it was honest, and Taiho liked honest work. He had stopped at Station Orima to deliver machine parts. The main halls of the market were loud and crowded. Aliens of every shape and color pushed past each other. Merchants shouted about their products. Music played from a dozen different shops. The noise made Taiho's head hurt. He found a quiet corner in Hall 7 and sat down on an empty crate to eat his lunch. It was just rice and vegetables in a small box. Nothing special. But Taiho enjoyed the silence. He chewed his food slowly and looked around at the forgotten cages in this forgotten part of the market. That was when he saw the dragon dot at first. Taiho thought the creature was dead. It lay so still in its cage. Its scales had no shine. Its eyes had no light. But then the dragon's side moved slightly. It was breathing. It was alive. Taiho put down his lunchbox. He walked closer to the cage. The old dragon did not move. It did not look at him. It just lay there, waiting for nothing. Something inside Taiho's chest felt tight. He had seen many sad things in his life. He had seen poor people on Earth who had no homes. He had seen broken ships floating dead in space. But something about this old dragon made him feel a deep sadness. Here was a living creature. It had a heart that beat and lungs that breathed. and the whole universe had decided it was garbage. How much? Taiho asked. A Volani merchant nearby looked up from his computer. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion. What did you say, human? The dragon, Taiho said. How much does he cost? The merchant laughed. It was not a kind laugh. You want that thing? Why? It does not breathe fire. It cannot fly more than a few steps. It just sits there and waits to die. It is useless. How much? Taiho asked again. The merchant waved one of his long hands. Take it. Free. I am tired of paying for its food. No one else will ever want it. If you do not take it, I will throw it in the garbage recycler tomorrow. Taiho felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would not help the dragon. He walked to the cage and opened the door. The old dragon still did not move. Taiho reached inside slowly. He was careful not to scare the creature. His hand touched the cold metal of the collar around the dragon's neck, and then something happened. The dragon's cloudy eyes turned. For the first time in a very long time, they focused on something. They focused on Taiho's face. Deep inside those old, tired eyes, something flickered. It was just for a moment. Just a tiny spark. But Taiho saw it. He saw it, and he understood. This creature was not just an old, broken animal. There was something inside it. Something that had been waiting. Something that had been hoping, even when hope seemed foolish. The dragon had been alone for so long. It had been ignored and forgotten. But it had not given up. Not completely. Come on, old one, Taiho said softly. Let us get you out of here. He lifted the dragon carefully. The creature was lighter than he expected. Its bones felt thin under its dull scales. It did not fight him. It did not try to run away. It just let Taiho carry it, like it had decided to trust this strange human. The Volani merchant watched them go. He shook his head and returned to his computer. Stupid human, he thought, wasting his time on a dying beast. But Kang Taiho did not look back. He carried the old dragon through the crowded halls of Station Orima, past the bright shops and the noisy crowds. Aliens stared at him. Some laughed. Some looked disgusted. A human carrying a worthless old lizard. What a strange sight. Taiho did not care what they thought. He reached his ship, the Steady Hand. It was a small cargo vessel, old but reliable. He walked up the loading ramp and into the dim interior. The ship smelled like metal and engine oil. It was not a beautiful home, but it was warm and it was safe. Taiho set the dragon down on a pile of soft blankets in the corner of the cargo hold. He found a heat lamp and turned it on. He filled a bowl with fresh water. The dragon watched him with those cloudy eyes. It still did not make a sound. You are safe now, Taiho said. No one will throw you away. I promise. The dragon lowered its head onto its front legs. It closed its eyes. And for the first time in 11 station cycles, it slept peacefully. Taiho sat beside the creature for a long time. He did not know why he had taken it. He did not know what he would do with it. He was just a cargo hauler. He did not have much money. He did not have a home on any planet. His life was this ship and the endless black space between the stars. But he looked at the old dragon sleeping beside him, and he felt something he had not felt in years. He felt like he had done something that mattered. Outside the ship, the universe was vast and cold and full of creatures who only cared about power and profit. But inside the Steady Hand, a man and a forgotten dragon rested together. And somehow, that felt like enough. The Steady Hand flew through the darkness between stars. Inside the ship, the engines hummed their quiet song. Kang Taiho sat in the pilot's seat, watching the lights of distant suns pass by like fireflies. Behind him in the cargo hold, the old dragon slept under the warm glow of the heat lamp. 3 days had passed since Taiho had taken the dragon from Station Arima. In those 3 days, the creature had barely moved. It ate a little food. It drank a little water. Mostly, it just slept. Sometimes it opened its cloudy eyes and looked around. Then it closed them again and returned to its dreams. Lee. Yuna was not happy about the new passenger. Yuna was the co-pilot and engineer of the Steady Hand. She was a woman of 30 years, with short black hair and oil stains on her fingers that never seemed to wash away. She had worked with Taiho for 5 years. She knew him well. She knew he was a kind man with a soft heart. But sometimes, she thought, his soft heart made him do stupid things. "You brought home a half-dead lizard," she said, standing in the doorway of the cargo hold. Her arms were crossed over her chest. Her voice was flat and cold. "He is a dragon," Taiho said. He was kneeling beside the creature, checking its water bowl. "He is a liability," Yuna replied. "We barely have enough credits to buy fuel. How are we going to feed this thing? What are we going to do with it?" Taiho did not answer. He did not have a good answer to give. Yuna sighed and shook her head. "Fine, keep your pet, but do not expect me to take care of it." She turned and walked back to the engine room. She had work to do. Someone had to keep this old ship flying. That night, Taiho could not sleep. He lay in his small cabin, staring at the ceiling. His mind kept returning to the dragon. There was something about the creature that he could not explain. Something that pulled at him like a rope around his heart. He got up and walked to the cargo hold. The dragon was awake, sitting in its pile of blankets. Its cloudy eyes turned toward Taiho as he entered. "Cannot sleep either?" Taiho asked. He sat down on a crate near the dragon. "Yeah, me too." He looked at the collar around the dragon's neck. It was old and tarnished. The metal had turned green and brown with age. A small tag hung from it, shaped like a rectangle. Taiho had noticed it before, but he had not examined it closely. Now, with nothing else to do, he leaned forward and looked at the tag dot. It was covered with scratches and dirt. Whatever words had been written on it were almost completely gone. Any normal person would have looked at it and seen only random marks. Meaningless noise. But Kang Taiho was human. And humans had a special gift. For millions of years, humans had evolved to see patterns. They could find faces in clouds. They could see shapes in stars. They could read meaning where other species saw only chaos. Taiho squinted at the tag. He tilted his head. He let his eyes relax. And slowly, very slowly, he began to see something. Letters. Faint and worn, but still there. Hiding under the dirt and scratches. "Wait here," he told the dragon. He ran to the supply closet and found a magnifying tool and some cleaning liquid. He returned to the dragon and sat down cross-legged on the floor. With gentle hands, he began to clean the tag dot. It took him 3 hours. He worked slowly and carefully. He wiped away years of grime. He scraped off layers of rust. The dragon sat perfectly still and watched him work. Its cloudy eyes seemed less cloudy now. There was a tension in them. Interest. Finally, the words appeared. Taiho held up the magnifying tool and read them out loud. His voice barely a whisper. Unit 7. Guardian Class. Bonded to Imperial House of Myra. If found, return to the Throne of 7 Suns. The words hung in the air like ghosts. Taiho's hands began to shake. His heart pounded in his chest. He read the words again and again. Each time, they said the same thing. The Imperial House of Myra. The Throne of 7 Suns. Every human child learned about the Moran Empire in school. It was one of the greatest civilizations the galaxy had ever seen. 3,000 years ago, the Morans had ruled 100 star systems. Their technology was so advanced that modern scientists still could not understand it. Their cities had floated in the clouds. Their ships had traveled faster than light itself. They had built wonders that made the greatest achievements of humanity look like children's toys. And then, suddenly, they had vanished. A great war had destroyed them. Their enemies had burned their worlds. Their people had died or scattered to the far corners of the universe. All that remained were ruins and legends. But the legends spoke of the Guardians. The Marins had created living weapons. Dragons, engineered from genes and magic and technology that no one understood anymore. These creatures had been bonded to the royal family. They had protected the emperors and empresses for thousands of years. They could breathe fire that melted starships. They could sing songs that broke enemy machines. They were loyal until death, and beyond that, when the Maran Empire fell, the Guardians had fought to the last breath. Everyone thought they had all died with their masters. For 3,000 years, no one had seen a living Guardian dot until now. Taiho looked at the old dragon with new eyes. This was not just a broken pet that no one wanted. This was a living piece of history, a survivor of a dead empire, a creature older than human spaceflight itself. Who are you? Taiho whispered. The dragon met his gaze. And for just a moment, Taiho thought he saw something in those old eyes. Not confusion, not emptiness. Understanding that, he grabbed the ship's communication device and called, "Yuna." His voice cracked with excitement. "Yuna, wake up. You need to come to the cargo hold. Now." 5 minutes later, Yuna stood beside him, reading the words on the collar tag. Her face had gone pale. Her hands were shaking just like his. "This is impossible," she said. "The Guardians are extinct. Everyone knows that." "Everyone was wrong," Taiho replied. Yuna looked at the dragon. The creature looked back at her. And for the first time since it had come aboard, something changed in its posture. It sat up straighter. Its dull scales seemed to catch the light differently. There was dignity in the way it held its head, pride. 3,000 years, Yuna whispered. He has been alone for 3,000 years. The weight of those words pressed down on them both. 3,000 years of wandering. 3,000 years of being sold and traded and ignored. 3,000 years of waiting for someone to see him, to recognize him, to remember what he was. And in all that time, not a single alien had bothered to clean his collar and read his tag. They had looked at him and seen a worthless old animal. They had not seen the truth, but a human had. A simple cargo hauler from Earth had done what 1,000 alien scholars and collectors had failed to do. He had looked at the forgotten creature with kind eyes. He had taken the time to care. What do we do now? Yuna asked. Taiho thought about the words on the tag. Return to the throne of 7 suns, the legendary capital of the Maran Empire, the greatest structure ever built. We take him home, Taiho said. Yuna stared at him like he had lost his mind. The Maran Expanse is forbidden space. No one goes there. The Federation has blocked all travel to that sector for centuries. I do not care. There could be traps, defense systems, things that kill anyone who gets too close. I do not care. Yuna grabbed his arm and forced him to look at her. Taiho, think about this. We are nobody. We are 2 humans on a broken cargo ship. We have no weapons. We have no protection. If we fly into forbidden space, we could die. Taiho looked at the old dragon. The creature was watching him, waiting. He waited 3,000 years, Taiho said quietly. He waited for someone to find him, to help him. I am not going to abandon him now. Yuna let go of his arm. She stood in silence for a long moment. Then she sighed, and a small smile crossed her lips. You are an idiot, she said. But you are a good idiot. She turned toward the engine room. I will start making repairs to the navigation system. If we are going to fly into death, we should at least have working maps. She walked away, leaving Taiho alone with the dragon. Taiho reached out and gently touched the creature's head. The scales were warm under his palm. The dragon closed its eyes and leaned into his touch. "We are going to take you home, old one," Taiho said. "I promise." Outside the ship, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them, hidden in forbidden space, the throne of 7 suns waited in darkness. It had been empty for 3,000 years, but not for much longer. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Secrets did not stay secret for long. When Kang Taiho registered the dragon's heritage in the Federation database, he did it to protect the creature. He wanted official records showing that the dragon belonged to him. He wanted to make sure no one could claim it was stolen property. But he did not understand how many eyes watched the Federation databases within 3 days. Everyone knew. A living Moran Guardian had been found. A piece of the lost empire was still alive. And it was in the hands of a nobody. Human on a small cargo ship. The messages started coming. First came the Arima Archaeological Guild. They were scientists who studied ancient civilizations. Their representative appeared on Taiho's communication screen with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Mr. Kang," the representative said, "what you have found is of immense scientific value. This creature could unlock secrets of Moran biotechnology. Imagine what we could learn. Imagine what medicines we could create. What weapons. What wonders. He is not for sale," Taiho said. "Name your price. Any price. We have funding from 12 different governments. He is not for sale." The smile faded from the representative's face. "Think carefully, Mr. Kang. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Do not waste it on sentiment." Taiho ended the call. Next came the Villani Syndicate. They were criminals. Smugglers and thieves who dealt in illegal goods. Their message was not polite. "Human," the syndicate boss hissed through the screen. His 4 eyes glowed with greed. "You have something that belongs to us now. Bring the dragon to Station Vela. Give it to us. We will pay you fairly." "The dragon does not belong to you," Taiho said. "Everything belongs to us if we want it enough." The boss leaned closer to the camera. "Bring us the dragon, or we will come and take it. And we will not be gentle." Taiho ended the call. The third message came from someone called the broker. No face appeared on the screen. Only a voice, smooth and cold, like oil. "Mr. Kang, I represent certain interested parties. Very wealthy parties. They have asked me to make you an offer. I am not interested in offers. You have not heard this one yet." The voice paused for effect. "A moon, an entire moon with breathable air and clean water. A place where you could live like a king for the rest of your life. All for one old dragon." Taiho thought about his small cabin on the steady hand. He thought about his tired body and his empty bank account. A moon, his own world. A life of comfort instead of endless work. Then he thought about the old dragon sleeping in the cargo hold. He thought about those cloudy eyes that had looked at him with trust. "No," Taiho said. "You are making a mistake." "Mr. Kang, maybe, but it is my mistake to make." He ended the call. Liuna stood behind him, arms crossed. She had heard everything. "You just refused a moon," she said. "Yes, a whole moon." "Yes." Yuna shook her head slowly, but she was smiling. "You really are an idiot, I know." They continued flying through empty space, trying to stay away from busy shipping routes. Taiho hoped that if they kept moving, the trouble would not find them. He was wrong. The Villani Syndicate found them near the Kepler Corridor, a stretch of space between 2 star systems. 5 ships surrounded the steady hand. They were fast attack vessels, armed with plasma cannons and missile launchers. Against them, Taiho's cargo ship was like a mouse facing 5 hungry cats. "Power down your engines," the syndicate boss said over the radio. "Surrender the dragon. If you cooperate, we will let you live." Taiho looked at Yuna. Her face was pale, but her jaw was set with determination. "Any ideas?" he asked. "I can try to run," she said. "But they are faster. They will catch us before we reach the jump point." "What about fighting?" Yuna laughed bitterly. "We have one old laser cannon that barely works. They have enough firepower to melt a small planet." The syndicate ships moved closer. Warning lights flashed across the steady hand's control panel. "Last chance, human," the boss said. "Give us what we want." Taiho grabbed the radio. "The dragon is not yours to take. He is a living being. He has rights. He has dignity. And I will not hand him over to criminals." The radio went silent for a moment. Then the boss laughed. "Kill them," he said to his fleet. "Take the dragon from the wreckage." The first plasma bolt hit the steady hand like a hammer. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew from damaged panels. Yuna fought with the controls, trying to dodge the attacks. But there were too many ships. Too many weapons. Another blast hit them. And another. The hull began to crack. Air started leaking into space. "Taiho!" Yuna shouted. "We are losing pressure in the cargo hold." The cargo hold, where the dragon was. Taiho ran through the shaking corridors. Emergency lights flashed red around him. He could hear the terrible sound of metal tearing apart. When he reached the cargo hold door, he saw smoke and fire inside, and he saw the dragon. The old creature was standing, not lying down, not sleeping, standing on all 4 legs, facing the damaged wall where cold space tried to push through. Something was different about him. His dull scales were starting to glow. First bronze, then gold, then white like metal in a forge. His small wings unfurled from his back. But they did not look small anymore. They looked larger. They were wrapped in fire that burned without heat, without smoke. The dragon turned his head and looked at Taiho. His eyes were clear now, completely clear. And in those eyes, Taiho saw something ancient and powerful. Waking up from a very long sleep, the dragon opened his mouth. He did not breathe fire. He did something stranger. He sang. The sound that came from his throat was not like any sound Taiho had ever heard. It was not loud, but it passed through everything. It passed through the walls of the ship. It passed through the metal hulls of the syndicate vessels. It passed through space itself. It was a frequency, a vibration, something the Myrans had engineered 3,000 years ago. One by one, the syndicate ships went dark. Their weapon systems failed. Their engines died. Their computers crashed. The 5 attack vessels drifted helplessly in the void, completely powerless. The dragon's song faded. The glow in his scales dimmed. His wings folded back against his body. And then, exhausted beyond measure, he collapsed onto the floor of the cargo hold. Taiho ran to him. He knelt beside the old creature and cradled his head in his lap. The dragon was breathing, but barely. His eyes were cloudy again. His scales had returned to their dull gray color, but he was alive. And so were they. What happened? Yuna's voice came through the ship's speakers. She sounded shocked. "Taiho, all the enemy ships just died. They are floating out there with no power. What did you do?" Taiho looked down at the dragon. The creature's tired eyes met his. And in that moment, something passed between them. Not words. Something deeper. An understanding dot. "Thank you." The look seemed to say, "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for reading the tag. Thank you for not giving up on me." "I did not do anything," Taiho said softly. He stroked the dragon's head gently. He saved us. He saved all of us. The syndicate ships drifted in the darkness, powerless and helpless. Taiho and Yuna did not stay to watch what happened to them. They repaired the damage to the steady hand as best they could. Then they continued their journey. The dragon slept for 2 days after the battle. When he finally woke, he was weak and tired. But something had changed in him. He was not just a broken old creature waiting to die anymore. He had found purpose again. He had found someone worth protecting. He had found a friend. Yuna watched the dragon carefully now. She no longer called him a liability. She brought him extra food. She sat beside him sometimes and talked to him about engine repairs and star maps. The dragon listened patiently, even though he probably did not understand her words. "You know," Yuna said to Taiho one night, "I think I was wrong about him." "Oh? I thought he was useless. A burden. But he is not, is he? He's something special. Something important." Taiho nodded. "He always was. The universe just forgot, and you remembered." Taiho smiled. "No, I just took the time to look." The stars passed by the windows of the steady hand. Somewhere ahead, the forbidden space of the Moran expanse waited. Danger waited. Mystery waited, but Taiho was not afraid anymore. He had a good ship. He had a loyal friend in Yuna, and he had a dragon who had just proved that age and weakness did not matter. What mattered was heart. What mattered was loyalty. What mattered was refusing to give up, even when the whole universe said you should. The old dragon opened his eyes and looked at Taiho for just a moment. His scales flickered with golden light. They continued forward into the unknown. The message from the Galactic Federation arrived 3 days after the battle with the Syndicate. It was an official notice, stamped with the seal of the Science and Heritage Council. The words were polite but firm. "Kang Taiho of Earth, you are in possession of a creature classified as a protected ancient relic under Federation Law 4471. All such relics must be surrendered to authorized research facilities for study and preservation. You have 10 standard days to deliver the creature to the nearest Federation outpost. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges. You will be branded a relic smuggler. You will lose your pilot license. You will never work in legal space again." Taiho read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it. "You know they mean it," Yuna said. She was sitting in the co-pilot seat, watching him with worried eyes. "The Federation does not make empty threats. I know. If we ignore this, we become criminals, outlaws. Everything we have worked for will be gone. I know." Yuna leaned forward. "Taiho, think about this carefully. Maybe we should compromise. Maybe we can work with the Federation. Let them study the dragon, but keep visiting rites or something." Taiho turned to look at her. His face was calm, but his eyes were burning. "You saw what happened on Station Arima," he said. "You saw how they treated him. Like garbage. Like something to throw away. If we give him to the Federation, he becomes a test subject. They will poke him and scan him and take samples from him until there is nothing left. He will die alone in a laboratory, surrounded by people who see him as a thing instead of a living being." Yuna said nothing. She knew he was right. "There's a third option," Taiho continued. He pulled up a star map on the ship's computer. "We take him home." The map showed a region of space marked in red. The Moran Expanse, a sector that had been forbidden to all travel for over 500 years. At its center was a point marked with a question mark. The Throne of 7 Suns. "This is insane," Yuna said. "Probably," Taiho agreed. "We could die. Also probable. Then why? Why risk everything for one old dragon?" Taiho looked toward the cargo hold where the dragon was resting. "Because he deserves to go home. Because after 3,000 years of being lost and forgotten and ignored, Someone should finally do the right thing. Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed softly and shook her head. "You really are impossible," she said. She turned to her control panel and started typing commands. "Fine. Let me find some old star maps. If we are going to fly into Forbidden's death space, we should at least know where we are going." The journey to the Moran Expanse took 40 days. They flew through regions of space that had not seen ships in centuries. They passed dead stars that had burned out long ago. They floated through fields of ancient wreckage, the remains of battles fought before humans had invented fire. The dragons seemed to grow stronger as they traveled deeper into the expanse. His cloudy eyes became clearer day by day. His dull scales started to show hints of their old golden color. He ate more food. He stayed awake longer. Sometimes, when Taiho sat beside him, the dragon would make a low rumbling sound in his chest. It was almost like a purr. "He knows where we are going," Yuna said one evening. She was watching the dragon with a curious expression. "Look at him. He recognizes this space." She was right. The dragon would sometimes stand at the window of the cargo hold, staring out at the stars. His eyes moved like he was reading something written in the darkness. Memories, perhaps. Echoes of a home he had not seen in 3,000 years. On the 25th day, they encountered the first defense system dot. It was a satellite, ancient and huge, floating in their path. Its surface was covered with strange symbols that glowed with dim white. As the steady hand approached, the satellite powered up. Weapons that had been sleeping for millennia aimed at the small cargo ship. "Turn back," a mechanical voice boomed through their radio. It spoke in a language that the ship's computer struggled to translate. "This space is Forbidden's. Leave now or be destroyed." Taiho's hands gripped the controls. Sweat ran down his face. The weapons on the satellite could destroy them in a single shot. But before he could do anything, the dragon moved. The old creature limped to the front of the cargo hold, where a small window looked out at the satellite. He pressed his nose against the glass. Then he opened his mouth and sang dot. It was a different song than the one he had used against the syndicate. This one was softer, gentler. It was like a password. A key dot. The satellite's weapons powered down. Its glowing symbols changed color from red to green. The mechanical voice spoke again. Guardian recognized. Unit 7, bonded to Imperial House of Myra. Welcome home. Safe passage granted. The satellite moved aside and let them pass. Taiho turned to look at the dragon. The creature met his eyes and made that rumbling sound again. Was it laughing? Did that just happen? Yuna asked. Her voice was shaking. It happened, Taiho said. He was grinning like a child. He talked to it. He told it we were friends. They encountered more defense systems as they traveled deeper. Ancient machines that guarded the dead empire's borders. Each time, the dragon sang. Each time, the machines recognized their master's voice and let them pass. On the 38th day, they entered a region of strange light. 7 stars burned together in a formation that should have been impossible. They were arranged in a pattern, orbiting each other in perfect balance. A septenary star system. The legendary 7 suns dot, and around those 7 stars, they saw it. The throne of 7 suns was not a planet. It was not a moon. It was a structure. An artificial ring world that circled all 7 stars like a belt of metal and glass. It was so large that Taiho's mind could not understand it at first. It was like looking at a mountain from an ant's point of view. Most of the ring world was dark, dead. Its power had failed centuries ago. But in one section, far around the curve of the structure, lights still burned. Something was still alive. Take us there, Taiho said softly. He could barely speak. Take us to the lights. The steady hand flew toward the ring world. As they got closer, they could see details. Cities carved into the metal surface. Gardens that had long ago turned to dust. Towers that reached up toward the stars. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. A monument to something that would never come again. The dragon stood at the window, watching his home approach. His eyes were completely clear now. His scales shimmered with golden light. Tears ran down his ancient face. Taiho walked to him and knelt beside him. He put his hand on the dragon's neck. "You made it," Taiho said. "You made it home." The dragon turned and pressed his head against Taiho's chest. The old creature's body shook with silent sobs. 3,000 years of loneliness. 3,000 years of hope and despair and waiting. And now, finally, it was over. They landed in a bay that looked like it had been designed to receive ships from across the galaxy. Dust covered everything. The air was old, but breathable. The lights flickered sometimes, but stayed on dot as they stepped off the steady hand. They saw footprints in the dust. Not human footprints. Not dragon footprints. Something else. Something that had walked here long ago and left its marks behind. The dragon moved forward, his legs steady for the first time since Taiho had found him. He knew where to go. He led them through corridors of glass and metal, past rooms filled with strange machines, past windows that looked out at the 7 suns burning together. Finally, they reached a great door. It was carved with images of dragons and stars and figures that might have been the Moran people. The dragon touched his nose to a panel beside the door. It glowed golden, and the door slowly opened. Beyond it was a throne room, and in that throne room, lights began to flicker. Shapes began to form. Holograms, preserved by technology beyond understanding, dot the last memories of the Moran Empire. I've been waiting. They had been waiting for someone worthy to find them. Taiho looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. Neither of them could speak. They had come so far. They had risked so much dot, and now they stood at the heart of a dead empire, ready to learn its secrets. The dragon sat on the steps of the ancient throne. He closed his eyes and waited dot after 3,000 years. He was finally home. The throne room was vast. Its ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into shadows. Its walls were carved with pictures that told stories of a civilization that had ruled the stars. At the center of the room stood an empty throne, made of metal that glowed with soft light. And all around them, holograms flickered till life. Figures appeared. Tall beings with silver skin and eyes that shone like stars. They wore robes of light and crowns of crystal. They moved with grace and spoke with voices that sounded like music. These were the Morans, the lost people, the rulers of 100 worlds. One figure stepped forward. A woman. She was taller than the others, and her crown was larger. An empress, perhaps. Or a queen. She smiled, and even though she was just light and memory, Taiho felt warmth in that smile. "If you are seeing this," the woman said, "then Unit 7 has found his way home." She looked directly at them. At Taiho, at Liuna, at the old dragon sitting on the steps. Her eyes seemed to see through time itself. "And someone has brought him here." Yuna grabbed Taiho's arm. Her grip was tight. "She is talking to us," she whispered. "How is she talking to us?" The hologram continued. "We knew our empire would fall. Our enemies were too many. Their hate was too strong. We could not stop them forever." Her voice was calm and sad. "But we believed in something. We believed that the universe, despite all its cruelty, still held kindness. We believed that someday, someone would prove worthy of our legacy." She gestured with one graceful hand, and images appeared around her. Scenes of the Moran Empire in its glory. Cities floating in clouds. Ships jumping between stars. Dragons flying through rings of golden light. Beauty beyond imagination. We did not hide our legacy behind locked doors and passwords, the woman said. We did not protect it with puzzles that only geniuses could solve. We protected it with something simpler. We gave it to our guardians, our dragons, our most loyal friends. The old dragon lifted his head at these words. His eyes glistened. If someone found a guardian, the woman continued, and saw only a creature to be used, they would never read the collar. They would never take the time to care. But if someone found a guardian and saw a living being worthy of respect and love, they would look closer. They would see the tag. They would bring him home. She turned directly to Taiho now. Her holographic eyes met his human eyes. You brought our guardian home, she said. Not for money, not for power, not for fame. You brought him home because it was the right thing to do. Because you saw value where others saw nothing. Because you chose kindness when cruelty would have been easier. Taiho felt tears running down his face. He did not try to stop them. The holographic woman knelt. A queen of a lost empire, kneeling before a simple cargo hauler from Earth. To the one who brought our guardian home, she said, we gift you this place. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as caretakers. Learn from what we built. Study our science. Read our books. Understand our mistakes as well as our triumphs. And perhaps one day do better than we did. She rose and smiled again. It was the smile of a mother looking at a child she was proud of. We could not save our empire, but we could save its heart. And now that heart belongs to you. The hologram faded. The lights in the throne room flickered. And then, all across the ring world, power surged. Systems that had been dead for 3,000 years came back to life. Factories hummed with energy. Libraries glowed with data. Gardens began to wake, their seeds still waiting in special containers. Laboratories powered up, their experiments frozen in time. Ships sat in hangars, ready to fly again. An entire civilization's worth of knowledge and technology. All of it preserved. All of it waiting. All of it now in human hands. Yuna walked to one of the walls, where a screen had come alive with my writing. I cannot read this, she said, but the ship's computer should be able to translate it. This is everything. Their history, their science, their medicine, their engineering, everything. Taiho stood in the middle of the throne room, too overwhelmed to move. He was just a cargo hauler. He fixed boxes and flew a rusty ship. He was nobody special. And now he was standing in the heart of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Why me? He asked the empty room. Why did this happen to me? The old dragon limped over to him. The creature sat beside Taiho and looked up at his face. And in that moment, Taiho understood it was not about being special. It was not about being chosen by fate or destiny. It was about a choice. A simple choice. When he had seen the old dragon in that dirty cage on Station Orima, he had made a choice. He had chosen to care. He had chosen to see. He had chosen to help. That was all. That was everything. The universe did not reward the powerful or the clever. It rewarded those who kept their hearts open. Those who refused to walk past suffering. Those who believed that every life had value. Thank you, Taiho said to the dragon. He knelt and wrapped his arms around the old creature's neck. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for not giving up. The dragon made that rumbling sound in his chest. His scales glowed warmly. And for the first time, a soft voice echoed in Taiho's mind. It was old and tired, but full of love. No, the voice said. Thank you. Days passed. Then weeks. Taiho and Yuna explored the ring world. They found archives full of books and recordings. They found laboratories where marine scientists had worked on curing diseases and extending life. They found shipyards where starships far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built sat waiting to fly. They sent a message back to Earth. They told their people what they had found. They invited scientists and scholars and teachers to come and learn. The response was overwhelming. Ships came from across the galaxy, not to conquer or steal, but to study and share. Humans worked alongside aliens who had once looked down on them. They translated ancient texts together. They rebuilt broken machines together. They learned together. The dragon watched it all with quiet satisfaction. He spent most of his days resting on a cushion near the throne. He was old and tired, and the journey had taken much of his remaining strength. But he was happy. For the first time in 3,000 years, he was truly happy. One evening, Taiho sat beside him as the seven suns set behind the curve of the ring world. The light was beautiful. Gold and red and purple, all mixed together like paint on a canvas. "You know," Taiho said, "people keep asking me how I knew to take you from that cage. How I knew you were special." The dragon opened one eye and looked at him. "I tell them the truth," Taiho continued. "I did not know. I just saw someone who was lonely and needed help. That is all." The dragon made his rumbling sound. "They say I am a hero now. A legend. The man who inherited an empire." Taiho laughed softly. "But I do not feel like a hero. I feel like the same person I always was. Just a man trying to do the right thing." The dragon lifted his head and pressed it against Taiho's shoulder. His voice echoed in Taiho's mind again. "That is why they chose you," the voice said. "Because you do not want to be a hero. You just want to be good." Taiho smiled and stroked the dragon's warm scales. Years later, when historians wrote about this moment in history, they would call it the Second Awakening. They would write about how humanity became the caretakers of the greatest treasure the galaxy had ever known. They would write about the technologies that cured diseases and fed hungry worlds. They would write about the ships that explored new stars and found new friends. But they would also write about Kang Taiho, the cargo hauler who changed everything. When reporters asked him for the secret of his success, he always gave the same answer. "Everyone else looked at him and saw something worthless," he would say. "I looked at him and saw someone waiting to be seen." And that, the historians would write, was perhaps the most human thing of all. The old dragon lived for many more years. He watched humans and aliens work together to rebuild what had been lost. He watched children run through the gardens of the ring world, laughing and playing. He watched the seven suns rise and set, day after day, surrounded by friends instead of strangers. When he finally closed his eyes for the last time, he was not alone. Taiho sat beside him, holding his head in his lap. Yuna stood nearby, her hand on Taiho's shoulder. Others had gathered too. Humans and aliens who had come to love the old dragon. "Thank you, old friend," Taiho whispered as the light faded from those ancient eyes. "Thank you for waiting for me." The dragon's last thought echoed softly in Taiho's mind. "Thank you for seeing me." And then he was gone. Not into darkness, but into light. Returning to the stars from which he had come, the story of the old dwarf dragon spread across the galaxy. It became a legend told to children on 1,000 worlds. A story about kindness, about hope, about the power of simply choosing to care. And whenever someone felt small or worthless or forgotten, they would remember the old dragon who had waited 3,000 years. They would remember the human who had stopped and looked and seen. And they would find the courage to keep going. Because if an old dragon and a simple cargo hauler could change the universe, then maybe anyone could. Maybe that was the whole point.